Hey, what's shaking, everybody? I'm going to talk today about recruiters. Now, this video is more suited or is going more towards those who are students in school or those who are rookies getting ready to go out on their own. But it holds true with everybody, especially in the trucking industry. You're going to go try to look at a company. When you're seeking employment there, who are you going to talk to? You're going to talk to a recruiter. Now, it's what type of recruiter you get that varies from company to company, obviously. But even if you're getting ready to graduate college, doesn't matter what program you're taking, chances are you're going to go with a bigger company. Who are you going to talk to? A recruiter. What is a recruiter's job? Their job is to sell the company, to get you on board. Now, before I go any further, the reason I'm making this video is because we had a recruiter in school today. I am a student going to Northeast Community College for the truck driving program. The guy that came, I think he's a cool guy. I think his wife's cool. They have yet to go out on their first run. They have just got out of the trainer trucks. They're going to team. The company allowed him to come in and speak on behalf of the company, to recruit us, so to speak. By the end of our back and forth, I think the guy wanted to choke me. Again, I think the guy's a cool dude. But I was hard on him like I am all recruiters. He didn't like that so much. But I did my job, he did his, and at the end I finally got the answer I wanted out of him. That answer was, why did you choose to go with the company? The guy back in the day was into drugs, he was an ex-felon, had traffic problems. All of that stuff is 10 years in the past. All the companies, because of the felon, said, no way, man. The company he was recruiting for said, all right, brother, we'll give you a chance. The company itself, the pay rate didn't seem all that great, especially for a veteran driver. I, of course, am a student, so I can't be too choosy. But I look ahead. I don't just look for the short term, I look at the long term. I look at training. I look at everything that goes into it, which I will get into here in a bit. But the company was the best for him. And before we go forward in this video, I think that's what everybody has to understand. You got to do what's going to be best for you. Every company that you're going to look at, there's going to be somebody that says, hey man, that company sucks. Every company you're going to look at, they're going to tell you, hey man, I ain't getting no miles. Hey man, the pay sucks. Hey man, I'm sitting all the time. Hey man, this. Hey man, that. Every company, you're going to have guys like that. Everybody has their own view on every company. With any company you go to, there's going to be people that are going to criticize your decision to go with that company. But you got to understand what your intentions are with that company. Understand what you want out of it. Understand what you think you're going to get. Now, I know there's a lot of people when they go to truck driving school, they don't know. These recruiters are going to build you a story that makes the company something like the best thing since sliced bread. Obviously, with most companies, that's not the case, is it? Again, this doesn't matter which company you're going to. There's going to be pros, there's going to be cons. Your job, when speaking with recruiters, is to get as much information out of them as you can and make them sweat a little bit, right? What questions do you ask? You can talk to former, guys that are in the industry driving truck right now. You can talk to all kinds of people, and they'll give you all kinds of information as far as what questions you need to ask. But if you're a student, if you're a rookie, really, what questions should you ask? The questions asked by a guy who's been in the business for 15 years is going to vary from the guy that is just getting in the industry. The concerns are a little bit different. The guy that's been in the industry for 5 to 15 years can be a little bit choosy. The guy who's just getting out doesn't have very many options, right? What do you do? What do you ask? Now, before I went to school, I had 4 to 6 months to talk to recruiters, to talk to companies, to develop my questions, to ask them all kinds of things, to make their lives miserable, so to speak. But I must stress, you can't be a dick. You can't be an asshole to these people. You can't try to make them miserable. You got to try to get as much information out of them as you can. If they can't answer the questions, they can't answer the questions. They're not going to be able to answer all of your questions. That's just the nature of it. They don't have all the information. Understand what capacity their role plays within the company. What is their role? How did they come about this job? Are they a former driver? There's a smaller company here in Nebraska. The guy that's in charge of recruiting, guess what? He was a former driver. He's the one that helped build the company from the ground up. To reward him for his hard work, they said, hey man, we'll give you a chance to be in the office. That guy knows the stuff about the company. Not only does he know the stuff about the company, if you're not the right fit, he's going to say, hey man, do this, and then talk to us. He's going to help you out. You get with these bigger companies, those guys that come recruit you, that's their job. Maybe they get a commission by how many people they get to sign up. It's like driver referrals. You'll see guys at truck stops, guys on Facebook that will sit there and try to get you to reference them. So, hey man, write me down as a referral. Why? Because they get money. Not all recruiters are paid like that. Not all recruiters get commission. But I know there's a lot of them that do get paid by how many within their hiring zone get hired. Now, you know, a lot of those people may not have ever been around the trucking industry. You're working for that company may have been their first taste of the trucking industry. They're going to give you as much information they can as far as what's on a sheet of paper. The same information that you could find if you went on the internet. And that's where it really comes into play. Do your research. Don't just go to school and think, all right, man, after school I'm going to go work for this company, everything's going to be peachy. It ain't going to work that way. Do your research. Research every company you can. Not only because you might want to work for them, but because you want to use them as a comparison point. Compare. Say, hey man, you're telling me you're going to offer me this, 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 and this. Well, company B is going to offer me all of this. Why should I sign with you? Don't be rude. Compare. Have them give you as much information as they can. Ask them questions about every little thing. Recruiter comes in. He gives you a spiel. They give you your pamphlets. You read through them. They tell you how much you're going to make. They tell you how many miles the average guys get and how much you might be able to take home in a year. They're going to tell you about the equipment, and they're always going to tell you, oh, it's late model equipment, late model this, late model that, and we haul for these things, and yeah. Again, same stuff you can find on the internet. Same stuff you can find on the company website. This is where your research comes into play. You want to be able to compare. Compare this company with that company with that company. Do your research. Remember, ask them questions about everything. Guy comes in, gets done with his spiel. Start simple. Say, hey man, you said your equipment is late model. You know, it's late model this or that. Single bunk, double bunk. Okay. They have APUs? No. Do you allow idle time? Yes. Cool. No. Okay, what systems do you got to help keep me comfortable in the heat or the cold? Some companies have kind of an idle control system that will turn on when the batteries get low and shut off when they get charged. Ask them what kind of partitions they got. Do you got the regular midsection separation? Do you got the ones that go across the front glass? What kind of tractors specifically do you run? What type of transmissions do you have? How big is the sleeper? How big are your steering wheels? Do they allow inverters? No? Alright, you can understand it. They should offer you an explanation as to why they don't. Do they allow inverters? How big of ones do they allow? Shop will install them. They will probably make a point of telling you that. Ask about the wheels. Super singles, duals. Ask about the trailer. Length. Types of axles. Tires. Ask them about issues. If I blow a tire going down the road, what is my protocol? Again, this is where your research comes into play. A lot of guys will say, yeah, you call the maintenance department, you call your dispatcher, they'll get you right in, get it fixed. You'll say, well, that's funny. I talked to a few different people and they said different. He says, why? What did they say? He said, well, they were either told to tough it out, or they were forced to go in and pay for it themselves and leave a receipt that they never got reimbursed for because they deemed it driver error. Same with problems on the vehicle, on the truck. When something happens, does the company get you in the shop? Do they get it fixed? Do they make you wait till you get to a terminal? If you have to go to a shop to get it fixed, is the company going to sit there and let you do a comm check? Are they going to let you use your fuel card to pay for it? Is the company going to call ahead and say, hey man, this is what we're going to do, charge it to us? Or are they going to make you pay for it and bring a receipt in when you're back at the terminal? If they make you bring the receipt in, that's where your research comes into play. Is the company really good about getting that put on your next paycheck? Awesome. If you read reviews where the guys said, hey, you know, we dropped our receipts off and we called them on it a month and a half later and then they came back to us and said it was driver error, so they're not going to reimburse us. Questions. You got to ask questions. Questions about everything. Home time. Traditionally, companies will say, hey, you get a day off for every week out, right? There are a few companies that say, man, you'll get a day and a half off every weekend. A lot of companies, over-the-road companies, will say, day off for every week out. That's fine. Is there a cap? Do you cap me at 3 or 4 days? If I stay out 8 to 10 weeks, am I only going to get 3 to 4 days off? Or am I going to be able to accumulate those days? If you're able to accumulate those days, how many days are you able to accumulate and take off before they repower your truck? Questions like that. They may seem silly, they may seem stupid, but make them sweat. See how good they are. Ask them about vacation time. Ask them about benefits. Benefits are a big one with a lot of these companies. They're going to really outline that when they talk to you. Most of these companies offer pretty decent benefit packages. What sets your benefit package apart from this person's? Health insurance. You offer health insurance. Cool. What is my cut? What do I have to pay into that? Are you actually offering health insurance, or am I supposed to pay for my health insurance and you halfway match the HSA account? Questions, questions, questions. Questions on chaining. Do we have to have chains? Do you show us how to chain? Are we expected to know? Drop and hook. Do you got a drop and hook? Yes? No? Lumpers. Do you pay for lumpers? Do I got to unload my own trailers? If a lumper is required, are you paying for it, or do I have to pay for it out of my pocket and get reimbursed by the company? Multi-stop pay. Do you offer multi-stop pay? What do you pay for multi-stop? Do I get paid for every stop, or do I just get a flat set amount for making multiple stops? What's the rate? Do you pay detention pay? Do you pay layover pay? If so, How long do I have to sit until that starts? If it does start, or if it, my apologies, when it does start, what is the rate? What am I getting paid? Is there a cap? How many hours do I sit? Truck breaks down. Needs to go in the shop for a couple of days. What's protocol? Does the company put me up in a hotel? Do I have to pay for a hotel? When we're training. You know, I'm going to get to training in a second. East Coast. Is there East Coast pay? Do I get a set amount for running in the East Coast? If I got to bounce around the East Coast for a while, do I get paid that amount per load? Or do I just get it when I go out of the zone and back into the zone? Is there extra pay for going to Canada? Mexico? Again, is it just a set amount, or do I get extra cents per mile? If it is extra cents per mile, how many extra cents per mile? Is there any Canadian policy? Or California policy? Sorry. Alright. Got a truck outside using this Jake brake, confusing me. Anywho. You know, what's their policy with California? Do they do a lot of California? Yes, no. They do a lot of Northeast? Yes, no. Hazmat, they require it. If you have to have it, if you haul hazmat, what's your extra pay? Do you get paid extra per mile? How many extra cents per mile are you getting paid? Do you get a bonus for hauling it? Questions. Do they reimburse you for the hazmat? Passport, TWIC card. Do they force you to get it? If you do get it, do they reimburse you for it? Do they pay for you to get it? Do they help you go through the process? What about it? Stuff on the truck. Lights, things like that. Do they keep that on the truck so you can replace them going down the road if they go bad? Yes, no. Do they force you to work on their truck? Or do they have a no touch on the truck policy where if something's wrong you just take it in and get it fixed? That way they don't have to worry about anything else. Cameras in a truck. Forward facing. Not a bad idea, right? Saves your ass, saves the company's ass. Becoming more of an issue. Cameras facing the driver. Not all too common yet, but it is happening with some companies. What is their policy on that? Do they have them? Yes, no. How does it work? Say you're reading reviews and you say a couple of guys posted on one message board, one website or whatever saying, hey man, they got the forward facing camera storage or they got the rear facing camera storage driver. On a hands-free Bluetooth headset talking on the phone, they called him in the terminal and fired him. Tell me about that. Tell me about that. Explain the situation. Especially if it's more than one person that said that. Call them on it. They're not going to tell you stuff like that. You talk to recruiters, they're not going to tell you about those cameras. They're there to tell you the good stuff. Not the bad stuff, the good stuff. It's your job to weed out the bad stuff. There are lots of guys out there that think everything is going to be peachy, and then when they get into the industry, they realize everything isn't as good as what the recruiter told them. At which point, they lose all taste for the trucking industry. And for them, it turns from a passion to a job. Recruiters are going to lie. They're not going to tell you the bad stuff. They're going to make everything seem like unicorns and rainbows. When they give you numbers, they're giving you average numbers. Understand what that is. These companies are big. They got lots of guys working for them. These guys have experience. Experienced guys are going to get more miles than rookies. That's the way it works. And we'll get into that in a second. When you're looking at the company for training, what kind of training do they offer? That's a tricky one, right? Understand how the training process works for them. Most companies, I think, are going to bring you in and they're going to do their orientation. And then you go out with the trainer. Come back, you do your road test, whatever. Other companies vary. There are companies out there that take you in, you do a road test, you do all kinds of book work, you go out on the road for 1 week, you come back in, you do some more book work, you do another road test, and next thing you know, you're on your own. Other companies out there that make you go for 2 months. There are companies out there that require trainers to have 2 years experience. There are a lot of companies out there that require their trainers to only have 3 to 6 months experience. Does that bother you? Yes? No? What are the other pros and cons? Do you want to learn from somebody that's still really green? Do you want to learn from somebody that's experienced? You got to do what's best for you. You got to ask these questions. You got to develop your own questions. Training. What's training pay? Say they pay you a set amount per week. Is that set amount per week, is that taxable, or is that per diem? It's a nice question to ask. Is there a waiting period on my checks? You know, they're going to say, oh, we direct deposit this, that, and the other, but that's not exactly what you mean. There are companies out there that will make you work for the company for 3 weeks before you get your first week's paycheck. They work 2 weeks behind. I don't know. I ain't going to do math. When you're training, what are you expected to do? How does the training work? Are you in the driver's seat and the guy's in the passenger seat telling you what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, make sure you know what you're going to do? Or are you teaming? Are they forcing you to team? Are they splitting it? If you have complaints about your trainer, who do you go to? Are you able to call your dispatcher and say, hey man, this ain't right, this guy's not good, I don't feel safe, I don't feel like I'm learning, he's not very nice to me, this is what he's doing. Call your driver manager, what have you. Get it taken care of, get a new trainer, or is this a situation where you have to go in front of the safety committee and say, hey man, this is what this guy's doing, and allow them to decide whether or not you get a new trainer. Understand what your rights are. How many miles are you going to log behind the wheel as a trainee? What kind of logs are you going to run? Paper logs, e-logs? What are you expected to do? How many miles are you going to get? As a new driver, when you get in your own truck, when you get through with training as a rookie, what are you going to expect? What is your rookie average going to be? What is your average mileage per week going to be? Your average mileage per week is not going to be what the veteran drivers. It's not going to be what the average mileage per week is. Company A may offer more cent per mile, but Company B may get you more miles per week. Even though Company B don't pay you as good of a rate, Company B may make you more money. But you also got to understand as a rookie, and I have to understand as a rookie, that I'm not going to make as much money as the veteran. Why? Well, one, I'm still learning. I'm going to be going slower. When it comes to navigating in the communities, in the towns, in the cities, I am going to be slower and more cautious than the other guys. So my loads are not going to be delivered near as quick. Not only that, I am not going to get the good loads. I am going to get the worst loads. I am going to get the loads into the really bad parts of the neighborhood. I am the one that chances are is going to have to sit. If there's a load shortage, guess what? I am probably going to be sitting until I prove myself to the company that I am worth the better loads. When you talk to your recruiter, ask them what the average length of haul is. Why? Why do you want to know what the average length of haul is? If you get a lot of short hauls, you're not making near as much money as you would if you're doing long hauls. Ask them where they run predominantly. A lot of these bigger companies will tell you all 48 states. Well, where's your predominant lane? If I went and worked for you, what would I be running most of the time? Company may run all 48 states. Maybe their main lane is from Denver to the East Coast. Maybe their main lane is here in the Midwest, but if they need to, they'll run a load to California or a load to the East Coast. Ask them what type of freight they usually haul. Give them situations. You go to a company and say you load water and they intentionally overload you and something happens. Say there you're overweight. The first thing you would do, obviously, is call a dispatcher and tell them what's going on, and you'll figure it out from there. But ask the guy, ask the recruiter what the company would do. He would say you would call your dispatcher, and you'd go from there. Well, yeah, we already know that. That's the answer. Yeah. Dig deeper. Say, all right, you go, you load water, they overload you. They don't want to take it off. They want you to go to a third-party facility. It's going to cost those guys $300. It's going to cost you $300 to have them take 2 pallets off to make so you can make weight. Who's responsible for that $300? Is that coming out of your money? Is that coming out of your pocket? Are you expected to pay for that, save the receipt, and bring it to your company? Or is the company going to make arrangements? All kinds of questions. Even if you don't want to bring a rider, even if you don't want a pet, ask them about those policies. Ask them about the rider policy. Ask them about the pet policy. If they do have a rider policy, say, okay, you can't have a rider. Do you charge me deposit? Do I got to pay an outrageous deposit? Yes, no. Do I got to pay so much a month for their insurance? Yes, no. How does this work? Say you have a wife at home. No kids, or your kids are out of the house. You're getting your CDL, and you guys just want to travel the country. After you get done with your training, how soon thereafter can she ride with you? All kinds of questions. They're there to answer the questions for you. You know, it may not seem nice to ask them all kinds of questions to make them feel silly or whatever, but you got to know what you're getting yourself into. Company A may not be as good as Company B, but maybe Company B works better for you. Maybe both of them are not good for you. Maybe Company C is the one you have to go with. What are you going to go with this company for? What is your reasoning? Are you going there because it's cent per mile? You go in there because of the mileage? You go in there because they haul what you want to haul? You go in there because you like their training? You go in there because you like their equipment? Why are you going there? Are you going there because you want to make a career of it and you want to stay there for the rest of your career? Or are you going there just to get your 1 year of experience and leave? You go in there because they have a dedicated lane so you can get home more often? There's all kinds of things that these recruiters will tell you that will make everything seem awesome. They won't tell you the bad stuff. They won't tell you the stuff that might make you not want to go there. It's your job to weed that out. Ask them about piercings, hair, facial hair, uniforms. Right now I got my hat on backwards. Is that allowed? Am I required to buy safety equipment? Say you're going to go haul flatbed. What are the requirements? What is your load securement training like? Am I learning this on the job, or am I going to go through a load securement course? What kind of equipment? Again, what kind of equipment? What type of axles? Am I rolling a spread? Am I rolling a sliding tandem? Sorry. If I buy a refrigerator, are they going to wire it in for me? What does the company allow? Remember to compare. They bring up cent per mile, say, okay, you give me this company gives me this. Cent per mile doesn't mean that much. Is there room for growth? Am I going to be able to build that up? Or am I going to work really hard in my first year, get up to say, let's say 41 cents a mile. Say I get 41 cents a mile in my first year on the road. Okay, that's great. I'm making 41 cents a mile, man. That's pretty good. Is there room for growth? Or am I going to be stuck there working for 3 years without a raise? There's always been a saying out there that says a guy who feels valued is going to work twice as hard as someone who doesn't. Guy A makes a ton of money per year but doesn't get a raise. Isn't going to work that hard, is he? A lot of money for a little work. A lot of money for a little work. Guy B works his tail off, may not make as much as Guy A, but the company makes him feel valued. Kicks him a little bit of a raise, a couple times a year, once a year. Decent bonus on Christmas, makes him feel happy. Give him scenarios. Driving down the road, tire blows. What do I do? Wind blows my truck over going down the road. What do I do? Guy rear ends me in the truck stop. What do I do? Guy backs into me at the truck stop. What do I do? I'm out of hours. And the load's supposed to be there. What do I do? My grandmother dies. My mother passed away. My brother passed away. What do I do? Those are legitimate questions right there. Not just trying to weed information out, but those are legitimate questions. If something happens, somebody passes away, are you going to be able to get home? You're going to be able to get home to see your family, to be there for that occasion. Chances are there's going to be a lot of weddings out there you probably won't be able to get to, birthday parties, etc., etc. But a funeral is a very special thing. It's a very sad thing. Are you going to be able to get home for that? Birth of your child. You're going to be able to get home and see that. How's that going to work? What's the company's policy? You get sick. What's the company's policy? They expect you to tough it out. They're going to allow you to go to the doctor. If the doctor says, hey man, you got to rest up for a few days, what's the company going to do? Is the company going to say, hey man, get your rest, we'll repower the load? Or are they going to say, hey man, this load's got to be delivered, suck it up? Questions, questions, questions. What perks does the company offer? Yeah, they're going to tell you what the benefit package is, but what are the perks? What are the perks? Why should I choose you over them? What little things do you do? Yeah, you told me the big things. You told me the cent per mile. You told me the vacation. You told me the lumper pay per, the layover detention pay. You told me about vacation time, insurance, what have you. What little things are you going to do that are going to make me as a driver happy? I understand that in a big company, I may be a number. That's fine. But what little things are you going to do or offer me that are going to make my life a little bit better? To make me happy and proud to be a member of your company? This all goes back to you understanding what you want out of this company. Are you looking for a company that's just going to train you so you can move on to bigger and better things? You go to this company because you want to stay there for the rest of your career? Why are you going there? You going with the company because you want to stay close to home and they're going to give you that opportunity? Why are you going with the company? When you're training, one of the most difficult things for a trainee to do, one of the most difficult things for me to do at school, skill backing. When you're out there with the trainer, what's your policy? If I get stuck with a trainer that has to drive from truck stop to truck stop until they find something he can pull through because he can't back up, I don't like that. Yeah, I go out there. Are there so many backups that I am required to perform? I know there are companies out there that will make their trainers bring cones and find empty spots in a parking lot and will make them do a minimum of 50 backups during their training period. Remember how long the training period is. Ask what you're able to do. Go back to the trucks, what are the trucks equipped with? Ask them silly questions. Ask them, what kind of stereo does it have? Does the stereo have Bluetooth? Am I able to hook my auxiliary cord into it to use my MP3 player? GPS. Am I allowed to have a trucker GPS? Does the Qualcomm or other computerized system in a truck have the GPS that I'm required to use? Am I allowed to develop my own route, or am I required to follow the company's route? Do I get to choose my fuel stops? Do I get to follow the company's fuel stops? Silly questions. Am I allowed to use the hands-free Bluetooth headset? CBs. Does the truck come with them? Do I have to buy one? All kinds of things like that. Ask all the questions you can. There's no stupid question. You got to get as much information as you can. You may not want to go with that company. You may not have any intention of going with that company. But if you heard reviews from other drivers that have worked for that company, bring them up. Ask them questions. Compare what he said with what they said. Compare company A with company B. You want to go with this company over here while this other company is coming in to talk to you? Ask them questions. You may not want to sign with them. You may not want to work for them. Ask them questions. Figure out what they offer versus the other guys. Pick that company to pieces. Your company comes in that you want to sign with, pick that company to pieces. All of a sudden, company number 1 may not seem as good as company number 3. Company number 2 may have just been as bad as you thought it was. Maybe it's not. There's nobody out there that can tell you all the questions that you need to ask. I can't tell you all the questions that I ask because it varies from time to time, because I look at their brochure and I compare it with all the knowledge I have from the companies and recruiters I've talked to, from the drivers I've talked to. And that's about the best it can be. You should go to the truck stops in a larger town and find these drivers for these companies. See if these guys will talk to you. They'll give you the time of day, man. BS with them. Hear it right from the horse's mouth. But then again, you want to take everything they say with a grain of salt. If they're talking garbage about the company, understand why. You're not supposed to judge people, but you don't want to make an assumption. Judge that person. See if they'll tell you who they worked for before this company they're talking garbage about. Understand the type of people they are. Maybe they think one company is great because they've worked for a bunch of terrible companies. Maybe they've worked for a really good company and they went to work for a bad company. Maybe they were working and weren't doing their job and they got fired. Maybe they don't want to run and they had to sit, so they don't like the company. Take everything they say with a grain of salt. Ask them about forced dispatch. Ask your recruiter about forced dispatch. Are we forced to go out? Do we get to choose a load? If we don't like something, can we say, hey, we don't want to do this? Also, as a rookie, if you don't feel comfortable with this load or that load, do you have the option of calling and saying, hey man, I've never been to a place like this. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I'm going to be driving slower. The load may or may not be late. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. Do they give you that option to turn down that load? Do they give you that option to be late? I know you don't want to be late with deliveries, but say you've never driven through Dallas before. Say, you have a hard time with big cities like that. If you get lost, the company going to understand? Or are they going to rip your butt? Questions. Questions, 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 questions. Even if they seem stupid, ask them. Ask them about the physical. What kind of physical do I have to do for your company? Do I just have to go through another DOT physical? Do I got to go through a special pre-work screen physical where I have to do lifting and climbing on this and climbing on that? And how does that all work? Questions. Orientation. Do you pay for me to get to your orientation? Do I have to front the money to get to orientation? When I'm staying in a hotel, do I get to choose what I want, smoking, non-smoking room? If I'm going to go with the trainer, do I get to choose a smoking or non-smoking trainer? Questions. There are recruiters I talk to that I am absolutely positive they want to kill me. But I ask questions. Because there's people in my class, and I know all over the place that they do this, they want to drive truck, but they don't know what they want to do. So they go with the first thing that sounds awesome, and then they don't like it. You gotta ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you don't have answers. You may not want to know the answer to the question you're asking. I don't care how big a sleeper is. I don't care if your truck has an APU. Honestly, I could care less if your truck has an inverter. But I'm going to ask those questions. Not only for my own personal knowledge, not only for my schoolmates' knowledge, because I want to see how good you are as a recruiter. I want to see how much you know. I have more respect for somebody that knows the odd stuff, the ins and the outs, rather than somebody who can read off a sheet of paper. Just the same with going to buy a car. Everybody can give you all the book information. Miles per gallon. Miles on the car. 0 to 60 in this. Give me the oddball stuff. Tell me the stuff I wouldn't normally know. Give me the stuff that I'm not going to be able to find on the internet. Ask these guys all the questions you can. Their job is to try to get you to sign on. Your job is to get all the information you can. To try to weed out all the bad information. Because then you can weigh the pros with the cons. If you've heard bad things about the company, bring them up. Don't be mean about it. Don't be an asshole about it. Bring them up. And they're going to be able to tell you whether or not it's true, false, whatever. Get that information. There are companies out there that seem awesome until you really get after them. Then again, I'm a rookie, student. I don't know everything. I know I don't know everything. I know my first couple of years are going to be rough. But I'm prepared for that. Not everybody is. Always be respectful, always be polite, always be professional. Always ask questions. Anyway, guys, I thank you so much for watching. I'll chat to you later.